Hello everyone, I'm back. Sorry we lost you there. Our network keeps dropping in and out here. So I'm hoping Veronica will be back on to join us. We were just starting to hear about her story. So it'd be lovely to get a little bit more information on that. For those of you who weren't aware, Veronica mentioned that she has primary lymphedema. And so that means that when she was born genetically, and she does want to join again here, so that's great. Here we are. Press that for me if you want. So primary lymphedema, generally worldwide, it's about 5% of our caseload. Hello, Veronica.
Yes.
I think this is going to be a
Okay.
battle that we might have to be patient with. But
Yes.
either yours or mine, I think that was ours. Our internet isn't quite powerful enough to enjoy this two-way conversation. I was saying, Veronica, that your diagnosis you'd mentioned is a primary lymphedema, and a specific primary, and that there are, like you said, several other conditions like that. That's a small percentage, isn't it, of people who have lymphedema. The primary lymphedema is in the minority.
Right. And
Yeah.
the genetic marker for that, and the reason I share that is because I didn't know until I developed lymphedema in 1994, and I didn't discover that I had that type
Yeah.
until 2016.
Do you think it's made
So
a difference to you knowing the type? Has that helped you?
it has in many ways, because now I understand some of the coexisting conditions I have. For example, another one is CVI, chronic venous insufficiency. And I developed my first, what's the name of it when the vein bulges in the back? And,
Varicose vein?
I developed my first varicose vein when I was
Yeah.
16 years old. And I mean, who knows a 16-year-old
Yeah.
with
It's unusual.
that's very unusual. And I remember people making remarks about, did you know you have a varicose vein, varicose vein? I'm like, why would I get that so young?
Yeah.
And of course, you move on, you don't really pay attention. Now all of that makes sense.
Mhm.
I was also a dancer when I was young, and so we always wore tights and leotards and stuff. And in some respects, or some aspects, I think that may have helped me not developing lymphedema earlier, as I developed when I was 20.
Your activity
So,
levels. Yeah.
yeah, so I had a little bit of compression, not medical grade, but at least a little bit of compression. But
Was
yeah,
the
that's my
journey
story. I'm third
was the journey
generation.
was the journey long to get diagnosed? You mentioned your third generation. Were you all diagnosed at the same time, or did you become diagnosed because they were? How did you get your diagnosis?
Believe it or not, Linda, we were diagnosed by a billboard.
No way. Tell us more.
Billboard, yes, yes. So I had just graduated from uni, as you refer to it in the UK.
Yeah.
I had my degree. I was off to my first job. I
Yeah.
just moved to Houston, and there I am driving down the freeway on my way to conquer the world, as it were. And you're starting your new life, a new chapter. And I passed this billboard that had two legs that looked like my father's one leg. My
Wow.
father was unilateral. According to my father, myself and my grandfather, the only two were bilateral.
Wow.
But I wasn't bilateral at that time.
No.
I saw two legs that looked like my father's one leg, and I almost crashed. I had never seen anything like that before. I had never seen a picture of lymphedema like that before. And I was in shock. And it said, if you have swelling like this, you may have lymphedema. It was a popular campaign slogan back in the 90s. They used it with milk and various other products. So they kind of took a spin off of that. And it caught my attention. And I remember that first day, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Couldn't stop thinking about it. So on my way home from work, I pulled over to the side. This is
Yeah.
1998. We didn't have
Yeah.
Google, no
Nope.
smartphones. So I literally took a piece of paper and wrote it down.
Yeah.
And then I called my parents and I told my father, I said, I saw a picture on a billboard that has two legs that look like your own. And he said, no way. And I said, it says lymphedema. And he said,
Had you
what's
heard that
that?
word before? Had you heard that word
Never,
before?
never,
Never. No. Mm.
never, 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 ever. I had developed swelling while I was in uni um, in 1994. So I'd
Yeah.
been swelling at that point for about 4 years.
Yeah.
But the only thing that would happen is my ankle would get swollen and my shoe would be able to fit at the end of the day.
And had you
So
been, had you mentioned that to anybody? Had you been to a doctor at all about that, or had you just thought it was just one of those things?
I was scared.
Yeah. Mm.
I was scared. My father endured, we counted it one time, God rest his soul, because he passed in 2016. He endured over 100 bouts of cellulitis in his
Oh,
lifetime.
wow.
And he was in the hospital at least 5 or 6 times a
Yeah.
year.
Wow.
My mother had a go bag ready at all times, you know, with change of clothes, ready to go to the hospital, extra toothbrush, toothpaste, because we
Such a
never
huge,
knew
huge, yeah, such a huge
when
thing for
it
people.
was strike.
Yeah.
And so I was afraid. I was afraid because I knew the swelling was, we didn't have a name for it. And they just kept calling it cellulitis.
Yeah.
But cellulitis is not lymphedema, it's a complication or skin infection, as you
Yeah.
know, as you're an expert in. And so I was afraid. And I remember telling my mother, this is happening.
Yeah. This is my
And
first
she
one.
said, you need to tell your father. And I didn't want to. I was young, and as it were, you're afraid of your parents sometimes.
Yeah.
Not necessarily uh, that I did anything bad, but I was afraid
No.
that he'd be upset.
Yeah.
And when I told him, he punched a hole in the wall.
Yeah.
And
Because he
he
was
said, it was
most
the only time
likely.
I'd ever seen him, outburst like that. And he said, I'm so sorry.
And that makes you feel bad then, doesn't it? You don't want to make your dad sad. Oh, that's a
Yeah.
really, really tough journey for you and for your dad there, all
Yeah.
that.
He said, I'm
Um,
so sorry I gave this to you. And,
yeah.
but it was a moment that sort of unified us, if it will. I said, well, whatever it is, we'll conquer. You've done it. I've seen you do it, and
Yeah.
I'll just deal with it, as you
And
have
so,
all your life.
so
You're
when
proof
you
that,
when
go
you
ahead,
realized that, then how long then before or before you both then got diagnosed with lymphedema?
1998, 4 years later. 4 years
4 years
later,
later,
yes.
and a few
So
appointments later, I imagine.
we ended up going to the clinic who had
Hmm.
advertised on the billboard. And the mistake at that point, my father got full treatment, 100%. They were able to reduce his limb by 45%. He was able to fit in pants again.
Yeah.
At that point, he was down to a house slipper. He was able to fit in a shoe again. I mean, his quality of life remarkably
Yeah.
improved, remarkably.
Fabulous. And did he have I'm hoping, a corresponding reduction in his cellulitis infections at that point too?
Absolutely,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yes.
So
And
obviously managed that swelling.
the other thing he observed, and this is purely anecdotal, there's no scientific, explanation, but my father didn't have the greatest dental profile.
Okay.
He had struggled with his teeth, for a
Yeah.
long time. And when it was finally uh, the CDT coupled with him getting dentures, when all
Yeah.
his teeth were removed and dentures, zero cellulitis after that.
Yeah. And so there's definitely um I think there is evidence, Veronica, that there's a systemic association. So you can have an infection somewhere in your body, and dental would be a classic. And we know oral hygiene is associated with lots of other associations, heart problems, things like that. But definitely an association that having poor dental hygiene can then present as people having, if they've got a vulnerability, this cellulitis in a limb, and it's often a leg, isn't it? Leg
Mhm.
at some point. So yeah, so once he had that bacterial load removed from his oral hygiene and the swelling controlled, the combination of those two, by the sounds of it, meant that his
Yes, he
cellulitis.
made my father was um, a very our background was farming and ranching. So he grew up on a ranch and he
Yeah.
rode horses and he did all the things that people in the country do.
Mhm.
And he also made keen observations on when he would go fishing and handled fish. Sometimes he'd get cellulitis, and sometimes when he was out, in the pasture with. So there were different ways that he was being exposed to bacteria that
He
was part
started
of
to
his
realize.
lifestyle,
Yeah, yeah.
but was incongruent to what his body could handle bacterially.
Yeah, what
And
must have been.
hindsight is 2020. Of course, the time that's going on, it comes out of the blue. But as he looked over and he said, every time I went fishing, every time I went hunting, every time we did this, that, boom, cellulitis. So he stopped
and all
doing it.
those things and all those things were giving him pleasure, I imagine. So
Yes,
to deprive him of those
yes.
pleasures is a huge thing, isn't it? Things that you love doing, holidaying, hobbies, that are impacting your health. Then it's people can end up really having to restrict their lives because of this. So talk about how. Tell us more now, Veronica, about how when you were diagnosed, then finally, did that mean that you have had a much better journey than your father?
Most definitely. My worst day is Candyland for him, or was for him. I really cannot. I have no complaints. Through his guidance, um, he's avoid the saunas, avoid the walking barefoot. Put your compression, put your compression. And when I was young, I didn't want to listen. I listened to the sauna part. One time I did see him get in a sauna, and the next day he was in the ER with
Yeah,
104 fever. So I never did that, and I don't go barefoot much.
yeah,
But as far as wearing the compression, I struggled with that. I only wanted to wear it when you couldn't see it,
yeah.
and I
You
wanted
were a
to wear
young woman.
shorts, and I wanted to
Yeah,
wear skirts, and
yeah,
and I was the typical rebellious child, even though I was already an adult.
yeah.
And um, fast forward 12 years.
Hmm.
No, sorry, fast forward 10 years. I got on a plane from Houston to Honolulu,
Right.
Houston, Texas to Honolulu, Hawaii, and it was an 8-hour direct flight. I didn't have any education. My dad never flew.
Yeah,
So he
yeah,
didn't have any wisdom to impart on
yeah,
me. And the minute, not the minute, but within a few hours of stepping off the plane, my left leg began to swell. And that completely altered my life. It really, really altered my life because when you have lymphedema in one leg, you're able to compensate a lot. And you don't realize
hmm
the body compensates for whatever. I'm legally deaf and I have a real strong sense of smell, I think, because of my hearing. And so when you have limited one leg, you compensate on the good leg to
yeah,
do the load. But when you have it in both legs, and I remember swelling up, and there was a time zone difference, and I was calling my father. He would pick up. I guess he was asleep.
yeah.
He picks up, and I said, I have lymphedema in my other leg, and I was crying. I was so upset. Like, how is this happening? I don't understand. You only have it in one leg. How did it happen? And why is this happening to me? He says, "Oh, don't worry about it. Your grandfather had it in both legs." And I was,
Yeah.
why are you just telling me this?
Right. So
I'm barely finding out. He goes, "Well, I didn't know. You learn things when you cross the
yeah.
bridge. Why was it going to worry you about something that may have never come to pass?" And
So tell us
so,
what you think, Veronica. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. What do you
no,
think
go ahead, go
is
ahead.
is the biggest message you could give to someone who is you, age 25, who's just being sort of diagnosed, who's just those kind of things? What would be the biggest thing you could say to somebody who may
At
be
that
thinking,
point in time, and that lesson learned at that point in time, advocate, advocate, advocate for yourself.
yeah,
Do not be dismissed because you are quote unquote mild, because
yeah,
you don't fit into this giant leg, and
yeah,
wounds and oozing and
this image
lymphedema.
someone's seen in a medical textbook when they were, yeah, and
Yes,
that fits,
we need to treat lymphedema like diabetes and
yeah,
like heart disease, because it is a progressive. And the people that had taken my father in had onboarded me as a patient, even just for 2 weeks, and had
yeah,
given me some handouts and said the do's
yeah,
and don'ts, had
yeah,
taught me how to do MLD on
yeah,
myself, maybe
yeah,
taught me a little bit about compression. I'm not
yeah,
talking about the full 6 weeks, but
no,
a
yeah,
couple of visits, right? But they told me at the time when I was 20 something, and I'm 5'2".
yeah,
So at the time I was maybe 105 pounds. I don't know what that is in stone,
yeah.
but
No, but
I was a
yeah,
petite woman.
yeah,
And the therapist told me, "Oh, don't worry, you'll never be as bad as your father." So
wow,
it gave me a false sense of complacency
yeah,
that because I was thin and because I was young,
yeah,
what do I have to worry about?
yeah,
And that is a misnomer. That is complete. If
yeah,
you're in that position where you are mild right now and things are going good and you've never had cellulitis and you think that you can just dismiss this, maybe you can for quite some time, but please know that you are one infection away, anything can change in and your life can change in a second.
yeah. And I think that fits with our current campaign we're running on at the minute, which is not to ignore that little bit of edema. There's no such thing as a little bit of swelling, and we've got a big poster campaign going out for that now. And that's we would advocate the same. Lots of people get dismissed for that. That's normal. You're getting a bit older. Or what do you expect? And you're right, the consequences of ignoring that mean that we end up with these complex conditions that need managing. And if we just intervene in those earlier stages when it is mild and you can wear a light compression, just think about moving a bit more and looking after your skin and looking out for signs of infection. We can stop it from the inevitable progression. We can reduce that inevitable progression, can't we?
And the impact on one's life is exponential. Lighter compression is cheaper. You don't have to have as many visits to CDT.
Yeah,
Maybe you can stave off surgery. I mean, financially speaking, over the long term of having lymphedema, could save potentially thousands of dollars.
yeah, yeah,
Just from that perspective. And
yeah,
then the other part is the physical part, and
yeah,
the emotional,
yeah, yeah.
Um,
The time
but
off work,
yes, yeah,
yeah,
that
all
is
that
my
kind of stuff.
number one message. And I'd say this also to people who are more severe, whether you have mild, moderate, or severe lymphedema, we are all the same. When we advocate for change, we are all the same. When we go, I'm the patient services director
Yeah,
for the Lymphatic Education and Research Network. When we go to lobby with the NIH, we don't say, "Oh, we're here to lobby for people with severe
yeah,
lymphedema."
yeah,
We're
yeah.
we're
It's
here to
all,
lobby for everyone with lymphedema.
yeah.
So
What do you
it
think? Sorry, Veronica. What do
oh,
you
go
think?
ahead.
What do you think would be an important message then that we should be making sure that healthcare professionals are aware of? And what would be the thing that you'd be saying, make, because they can't be expert in everything, can they?
No,
So
no,
so what would be a thing you'd love that everybody just understood about it, that they could help? What would you say?
that it's progressive.
Mm?
That it's
Not to
progressive. That's
ignore
the
it.
number one. That's a key word, is progressive. Because again, and I have started to coin the term, it's just my own, I'm not a doctor and I'm not a CLT, but over the course of being a patient advocate for 10 years, being with Learn for 5 years now,
Yeah.
there's what I'm starting to call a lymphedema paradox.
Go on.
And what I mean by that is there's a time between when you develop the swelling to the time that you swell and swell and swell, and then the swelling becomes a barrier to you going to get treatment.
Yeah.
I.e., you cannot fit your legs in the car,
Yeah.
you cannot drive.
Yeah.
It's incredibly cumbersome for someone to take you. You're unable to travel. So you have this window, and people don't realize that. I
Yeah.
talk to
Yeah.
so many family members on the phone, spouses, sisters, brothers, and they all say, my loved one is in the bed, their legs are big, but we cannot transport them. Is there anybody that can come to us?
Yeah.
And so progressive is
Yeah.
key,
Yeah.
understanding that it's progressive.
Yeah, understand that it's progressive. I think you're right. Understanding that the consequences of that aren't just, like you say, aren't just the physical. It is that I can't get a shoe on, I can't
Yes.
get clothes on, so I'm socially isolated. My mood is changing. I can't hold down a job. All the knock-on effects, the ripple effects of all of that, and people's
And
ability to be part of life. Yeah.
and the other thing to remember is that regardless of how severe the swelling is, most people, there is the segment of us that were born with it and presented with swelling at
Mm.
birth. Um, but it's important to remember that that person is inside. The person that used to be able to do all of these things and had a
Yeah.
life and had whether it
Yeah.
be a social life, career, whatever this disease has robbed them of, that person is still inside and they're grieving.
They're
They're
frustrated and
grieving
grieving.
that
Yeah.
former life.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree. And that's, I think, a big part of lymphedema awareness, which would be the first thing you said to me there. You diagnosed yourself when you saw a billboard. So for us, this is post simple things. I mean, like you say, no Google, then no social media. So the fact that we can this month and every day try to raise the awareness so that somebody somewhere sees something on social media or sees a poster and means that they recognize that symptom, they get help for themselves or they get help for a loved one, and they prevent that inevitable progression that we've mentioned, or the consequences, the cellulitis, the admissions to hospital, the restructuring their life. They're not going on holiday. Having that bag packed all the time that your father had to do, that really limited any choices, any plans he could have, anything he wanted to do, because he was always on the edge of being admitted to hospital. And so anything like this that we can do by having a conversation, and by talking to people and by telling people about lymphedema, I think we need to keep doing it, don't we? To
Mhm.
make sure that we can help somebody.
And I think having this conversation from an international perspective, another message I'm always driving is that lymphedema can happen to anyone, anywhere,
Mhm.
regardless of your background, what country you're from, what age you are, whether you're a man or a woman, you're a teenager, child, baby, elderly. It can happen to anyone at any time.
Yeah, and I
And
think that's,
regardless of how you spell
yeah,
it.
yeah. Wherever you come from in the world, however it's spelled for you, it's the same.
Yeah.
And when we do lots of our sort of teaching sessions and our awareness sessions, and we often ask, one of our first questions is who's vulnerable to getting cellulite, to getting lymphedema, and we'll come up with lots of things. People will volunteer, lots of scenarios. Someone who's had an operation, someone who's had cancer, someone who's been born with it, like yourself, with a genetic complication. But ultimately, when we go to the end, it's like ultimately it's anybody
Pretty
can
much.
develop lymphedema for various secondary reasons. And like you know, as a result of something, as a result of an infection they had, as a result of a surgery or a treatment that they had, a fall, a trauma, any, you know, an insect bite, whatever it is, anybody can get it. And so the more we can put it out there, I think, and then we'll make it, like you say, you'd never heard the word. You'd never heard that word lymphedema. You were in your 20s, and you'd heard the word multiple sclerosis at a thought, and Parkinson's, and the incidence of that is far lower, we would say, than the evidence we have in Wales. And so there's other
I think I had
diseases, other
heard of
conditions.
ALS before I heard of
Yeah,
lymphedema,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
but it's much rarer.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's I think what it is trying to raise that profile, which we're trying to do today, trying to make sure that we're keeping it in the top minds of important people, people who can make a difference, isn't it? And that's that. Tell us about a bit about what you've been able to do for that. You say advocate for yourself, but you are a very strong advocate for the community, the country, the lobbying that you've done. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
oh, absolutely. Um, I can get into a bit about, in the essence of time, since we lost time due to my technical
I know
difficulties.
it's not yours.
I won't dive real deep into. So at some point in 2014, uh, I both of my legs were swollen.
Yeah,
I couldn't fit into any. I was down to the last pair of shoes that I had, ballet-like slippers. They were stretchy. They're essentially house shoes, but you know I could still wear them to work and be appropriate. And anyway, I had a conversation with my father that altered my life. And I won't get into the details, but essentially he told me, he said, he said, you have what's called opportunity.
mm.
He said, you have insurance, you have a job, you have
As with this.
transportation, you live
Yeah,
in Houston, who is
yeah,
home to MD Anderson, one of the most famous cancer hospitals in the world.
yeah,
And don't tell me they have a lymphedema clinic there or know someone who has a lymphedema, you know. Yeah, I know your job offers short-term disability, you know, time off to address, they have FMLA. He said, what had prompted that was that I saw his leg for the first time as an adult. My
yeah,
father never, ever wore shorts. Never, ever. And when I saw his leg like that day, it looked like a piece of wood. It had papilloma. At the time, I didn't know
yeah,
what it was called, but now I know from all of my
yeah.
training.
So bumpy
It
skin,
was papillomas.
skin. Yeah,
The skin was very looked like bark. Like
yeah,
it was
yeah,
brown and mottled, and the two legs did not look like they belonged to the same person. Like if you're taking a
yeah,
picture, and I was shocked. Nothing shocks me now, but that was my first introduction.
yeah,
And after that, he passed from cancer. But I think maybe that happened because you know eventually I would care for him when he had cancer. But anyway, he said, "You don't have the right to judge me or how advanced my leg is because I spent my time taking care of you and your brother, putting a roof over your head. You never went without
yeah,
something to eat. You always had clothes on your back. I was busy working, and we didn't have all of the things that you have today, like the internet
yeah,
and access,
mm,
access. And you have all of these things, and they all combined, they spell opportunity.
yeah,
And there are people in this world who do not have that.
yeah.
So I have lymphedema in one leg. I get to use a cane to help me get around. You
Mhm.
have it in both. And if you end up in the wheelchair, do not come to me because I will not feel sorry for you.
Tough love there
Tough
from your dad.
love. And I I guess in Texas they say you're scared straight,
Okay.
where you're motivated to get back on the right path, and so that's what started my journey.
Yeah.
I eventually found CDT, and then when I really got into lobbying is when I was denied by pump for the first time. I had always, like he said, I'd always had good insurance. I'd always had never had a problem getting any kind of medicine. And I guess I lived in a little bubble,
Yeah.
so to speak. And many people do.
Mm,
Many people do until they have a major illness. They don't know what their insurance covers, or they don't, do you need it?
yeah.
So when I was denied my pump, I became so angry, like, oh, what is this? I needed this, and why? And that's when I got involved with the LTA. Uh, I found in my blog that my father, uh, he passed away, but then I was asked to speak. And so I did all of these speaking engagements in the late, um, from 2016 to
Yeah.
2022.
Yeah.
And I went to my first lymphedema conference in 2017 at the National Lymphedema Network.
Yeah.
And that's where I got the idea, because I'm in IT. My
Right.
background
Yeah.
is IT.
Yeah.
And at work, we were doing WebEx for years, because we had counterpart teams in the UK, Glasgow, Scotland,
Yeah.
London, Mumbai,
Yeah.
uh, all of that. We were doing all of that at work where I worked at JP Morgan. And I thought, we need to bring speakers to the Facebook group that I have founded so that patients know. So if they don't have the ability to pay, to attend, or if they can't even travel, at least they can get the information.
Yeah. They can get the information, of course. Yeah. You don't need to fly somewhere to hear the information these days. You can log onto an internet and look, and it's good that people, I think it's important that people are getting the right information. That's the only downside, I think, of having access as we do now, is that what we see isn't always true, isn't it? There's the false messages too that can upset people, that can worry people. We need to follow the evidence and make sure that people are hearing the correct things, and the validated things. And so to get, like you say, reputable speakers, and to have places where people can find good, reliable information is vitally
There's a
important.
little bit of irony here, Linda. I have to
Yeah.
share.
Well,
I first I did Facebook Live back in 2018. I just started reaching out to different speakers, and I tell them I have this Facebook group, and I would love for you to Facebook Live and do a talk to them about, their subject matter of expertise within the lymphatic community. And they tell me, what is Facebook Live? I've never heard of that. And I said, oh, it's easy. And I went and even set up like a test group where they could go in and practice going live and talking. And some of them took advantage of it, others didn't.
yeah.
But every single one of them, and I'm friends with a lot of them to this day. Um, they're well-known speakers.
Yeah.
They all did it. And here I took, 20 minutes trying to figure this out.
I think we'll
So that
we'll
shit was
blame
on the other foot now.
we'll blame hotel Wi-Fi and Welsh weather,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
our technical difficulties at the start today. I think we're touch wood, we're ticking along quite nicely now. I think we've only got a few minutes left though, on this. So
Yeah, well, to wrap up that
go
particular
on.
point that you raised about lobbying,
Yeah.
get involved. I have a message for, anyone watching this. Get involved, no matter, regardless of the country that you're in.
Mhm.
Please, please get involved. And you don't have to travel to get involved. You can
Not anymore.
email, you can write a letter, you can call, make your voice known, and you know, try to remove the phrase, I wish they would. I wish
Okay.
they
Yeah.
would. I wish they would. Who's they?
Yeah.
Who are you waiting for? You're
Yeah.
part of the community too.
Yeah. What can
Turn,
I?
I wish they would to what can I do? How can I
Yeah.
help you?
Yeah.
Because turn, doing this, pointing fingers that NIH is not doing enough, or the NHS is not doing enough, or Lymphoedema Wales is not doing enough, whatever organization, volunteer. And again, if you can't even, if you don't even have like an hour a month, use that hour a month to say, hey, can I write a letter? Can I call? Is there something that I can do to help this organization move the needle forward?
I think that's really important, and I think it's something that I'm hoping is becoming more acceptable now. We are often reaching out to our communities, our patient communities, to ask them to engage with us from a service setup perspective, from our sort of patient boards. We want people to tell us what it's like on the other side. We guess what it's like. We have some awareness of how it is to be a patient, but what we want is tell us more. What can we do to improve? What's important to you that we might have overlooked? And I think yeah, remembering our key stakeholders there, and that you do have power, definitely, and we are interested. And obviously, I'm speaking from a Welsh perspective here, so anyone online here now is in Wales. If you have lymphedema and you'd like to help to shape the service, then we'd be really keen to hear from you. We've got lots of different ways people can get in touch with us. We've got this Facebook group, obviously, we can message on that. We have emails that are on the Facebook page too, and our Instagram pages, and we're on LinkedIn. So please reach out and get in touch with us if you think that there are things you could offer to help us to improve the service we're offering to our patients. And I'm sure that's the same for you.
Absolutely. And Linda, I want to take the opportunity to thank you. Kudos to you. I know you've probably been doing this for what, over 20 years.
Well, yeah, I've been a
Um,
physiotherapist for a long time, but only in lymphedema for coming up 10 years now. 10
10
years working
years.
in
Well,
lymphedema
10
service.
years
Yeah,
in the community, sometimes, again, patients will blame, I myself included, early on when I was misguided and still angry over not being, identified when I was mild.
yeah, yeah.
I had a lot of that anger. I held on to that anger for quite some time. But now I'm of the opinion that anyone who's in the trenches with us, healthcare provider wise, you're facing the same walls of convincing other people that
Mhm.
this is a worldwide healthcare issue, and that any edema, as you said, is not cosmetic. It is a medical issue.
There's an impact, isn't there? There's an impact with everything.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to thank you so much for persevering and to get back online with us today here. I think it's been really powerful to be able to speak across the ocean there. So it's great for me to meet somebody and speak with somebody who isn't in Wales, isn't even in the UK, and to gain your perspective on the treatment that you've had and the diagnosis and the journey that you've had across the water there. And so please, if anybody's got any questions, I don't think we've had any questions through, um, but if anybody has, then please feel free to message any of us. But I think that will probably be us drawing it to a close there now.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. And I felt it,
Thank you so
it was
much.
an honor and a privilege indeed.
Straight back to you too from me. Thank you very, very much.
Okay. Bye bye
All the
now.
best to you. Bye now.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye now.